All right, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about section 3.3, calculating slope between 2 points and different types of slope. So when we talk about slope, we have seen slope in a linear equation. And the linear equation we have seen is slope-intercept form, which looks like y equals mx plus b. So what we really want to do is kind of focus in on that m. So we know that m is rise over run. And we kind of know how to calculate that slope from a graph. Now what we're going to do is calculate that slope from just two given points, understanding that those 2 points are on a line. So this helps when we're not given the actual graph to count, but it's easy when we go ahead and look at the graph and all we're doing is counting. So if we're looking at, this is just a review, find the slope of each line. So if we're looking at one, find the slope from that point to that point. Now remember, I said start from the left and you work your way right. Am I going up or down to get to my second point? I have to go down one. So this would say down one would be a -1. Good. Now I go down one. Now I need to go right 1, 2, 3. So that would be over +3. So my slope would be -1/3. Good. Let's go ahead and try this one. So if I'm starting at that point, how do I get to that second point? I need to go up now. 1, 2, 3. So up 3 is a +3. And then I need to go to the right one. So it's going to be +1. Okay, good. Now if you notice, if you're looking at my line, is my line increasing or decreasing from left to right? If it's decreasing, it should be a negative slope. If it's increasing, it should be a positive slope, which it is. Okay, so that's important to understand. I'll go through Mr. Slope Guide in a later section. Good. Now let's look at these types of problems. Okay, so these are the exact identical graphs that we just calculated the slope for. But now I know that my slope for number 1 is -1/3. And I know that my slope here is 3/1. But I did that using the graph. Now what if I wasn't given the graph? What if I was just given 2 points on that line? So let's choose 2 points. So if I chose that point right there, that point right there, this point right here is -1, -1. Okay, and the second point, let me change the color. The second point is going to be 2, -2. So it's 2, -2. Okay, so those are my points right there. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to rewrite those points. So it's -1, -1. Then for this one, it's going to be 2, -2. Awesome. So now, I am going to use some sort of formula to calculate that slope. So if I'm using a formula to calculate that slope, it looks like m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, last section I talked about the change in y's over the change of x's. Basically, you're trying to see the difference between your y's and the difference with your x's. And your y's are always on top because we always rise first. Now, if I'm just given these 2 points, so if you did not see the graph up top, now it's just given these 2 points, my answer should be -1/3. Now I'm going to show you how to get there. So the first thing you want to do is label each ordered pair. So I know I have an x and I know I have my y. I know I have an x and I know I have my y. So these 2's and 1's, all I'm talking about is I'm talking about my first ordered pair. I'm talking about my second ordered pair. Okay. Now, it does not matter which y you start with, but whatever y you start with on the top, you have to start with that same ordered pair on the bottom. So I'm just going to go according to the slope formula. So it says y2. Which is my y2? My y2 is -2. So all I'm going to write is -2. So m equals -2. Now it's going to say minus my y1. What's my y1? My y1 is -1. So it's going to be minus drawn in parentheses, minus 1. So I have my y2, which is negative 2, minus my y1, which is negative 1. Good, now I'm just going to put that over my x2, which is my x2. My x2, which is positive 2. Okay. Minus my y1, which is negative 1. So minus my x1, which is negative 1. Good. So now I have something that looks like this. Now this might look a little confusing right now, but all we're going to do is simplify. So if I have a double negative in here, we know that is a big positive. So then I'm going to say, okay, well, what is negative 2 plus 1? Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1, right? Good. Now I have a double negative inside of here. That's going to become a big positive. So now I just have 2 plus 1, which is 3. So my simplified slope is negative 1/3. That's what I got up there. Awesome. So let's try it again. So I want to go ahead. I have 2 points on that line. My answer should be 3 over 1. So let's look at this ordered pair right there. That ordered pair is negative 1, negative 4. And that ordered pair is 0, negative 1. Okay, so like I said, I'm just going to rewrite that here. So it's going to say negative 1, comma negative 4. And it's going to say 0, comma negative 1. Okay, good. Now, label is my next step. So I want to have an X, I want to have a Y, I want to have an X, and I want to have a Y. I'm talking about my first order pair, I'm talking about my second order pair. Okay, good. So now I'm just going to plug it in. So I'm going to have my y2. My y2 is negative 1. Okay, that's my y2. Minus my y1, which is negative 4. Make sure you draw those parentheses because I don't want to get the signs mixed up. Good. Now it's going to be over my x2, which is 0, minus my x1, which is negative 1. Good. So now when I go ahead and simplify that, I'm going to have another plus because I have a double negative. So now I have negative 1 plus 4. Negative 1 plus 4 is positive 3. Okay, positive 3. And that's going to be over. I have 0 minus a negative 1. Well, these two negatives become a positive, so I just have 0 plus 1, which is 1. Right? So when I simplify it, I have my slope as 3 over 1, and that's what I got with my graph. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get some practice problems. Okay, I'm going to set up example 3 with you, and then I want you to work on example 3, example 4, ask questions, and example 5 is going to be a money problem. So like I said, you want to go ahead and label your ordered pairs. So I have an X, I have a Y, I have an X, and I have a Y. I'm talking about my first ordered pair, talking about my second ordered pair. Okay, so M equals my Y2, which is 5, minus my Y1, which is 2, good, over my X2, which is negative 3, minus my X1, which is 4. Now this looks a little bit easier because I don't have all those signs in the middle. So I'm just going to simplify. 5 minus 2 is 3. Negative 3 minus 4 is negative 7. And as long as that fraction is simplified, that is my slope. Okay, good. Let's go ahead and try example 4. Okay, try example 4, then number 5 is going to be a money problem. Good luck. Alright, so now we're going to talk about different types of slopes. So now we calculate slope from 2 given points. Now, there's different types of slopes. There's going to be a positive slope, there's going to be a negative slope, and there's 2 other types of slopes. So we have 0 zero slope, and we have an undefined slope. So should be review material, but let's just talk about it. Review a little bit more. So if I have a zero slope, it's going to look like a horizontal line. So if I have a horizontal line like you see right here, I have a zero slope. Okay. Now, if I was looking at a graph, it would look something like this. I would have a point right there, maybe a point right there, maybe a point right there. But I know my line is going to look something like that, where I can have two arrows, and I have a horizontal line. Now, that's what my graph would look like. Now, if I'm looking at a table, my table would look like if I was given an x value of, let's say, 0, 1, 2, and 3. If you look at my graph, when I input a 0, my y value is 4. 4. When I input a 1, my output is a 4. When I input a 2, my output is a 4. When I input 3, my output is a 4. So understanding that your y values are all the same when you're talking about something that has a zero slope or a horizontal line. Now, if you're thinking about what we did to understand the rate of change, given a table, we'll look at 4. What do you have to do 4 to get to another 4? You have to add, what, 0. What do you have to do to 4 to get to 4? Add 0. You have to do to 4 to get to 4. Add 0. So that 0 constant would be my slope. Okay, good. Now, simply, my equation will look something like this. Y equals mx plus b, right? Okay. In this case, what is my y-intercept? My y-intercept is 4, excuse me. My y-intercept is 4. And my slope is 0. So if my slope is 0, my y-intercept is 4, all I'm going to do is plug in. So it's going to say y equals 0x plus 4. Okay. Now if you wrote that, I'd give you credit. But if you simplify that, if you have 0 next to x, no matter what you plug in for x, 0 times x is 0. So then you have y equals 0 plus 4, which is just y equals 4. So if you have anything that says y equals a number, it is a horizontal line, which has a 0 slope. Cool. Let's go through one example. Now, if I went to go ahead and I'm just going to go through example 1. So if I have my y equals negative 4, okay, well, looking back, y equals 4. 4 is actually what? My y-intercept. So what's my y-intercept here? The y-intercept's negative 4, which is all the way down there. Okay, and I know that it's a horizontal line because it's a y equals graph. So all I'm going to do is draw a horizontal line through that point of negative 4. And my graph looks something like that. Awesome. So here, I would say my slope is 0. My y-intercept is negative 4. Awesome. When you go ahead and try number 2, number 3 is going to be a money problem. Good luck. Alright, so lastly, now we're not talking about horizontal lines, we're talking about vertical lines. And the vertical lines are going to have undefined slopes. So what does that mean? Now, if I'm talking about a vertical line, I'm talking about if I have not a horizontal line through my y-axis, but a vertical line through my x-axis. So now I'm not going to have a y-intercept, I'm going to have an x-intercept. Okay. So now my graph is just going to look something like that. which I have an x-intercept in this case of positive 3. Okay, good. So now when I talk about my table, okay, let's just go through a couple of points. So let's go through what my x-intercept is. So when my x is 3, my y is what? 0. So when my x is 3, wait, my y could also be 1. When my x is 3, my y could also be 2. When my x is 3, my y could also be 3. Now if you remember determining if something is a function or not, if you have the same input that displays different output, it is not a function. You still could say that it's a line, but it does not have a slope, okay? So my slope in this case would be undefined. I can't define it, okay? So now my equation isn't going to be an y equals graph, it's going to be an x equals graph, and it's going to be x equals whatever your x-intercept is. In this case, it's 3. So that would be a vertical line, undefined slope type of equation. Awesome. So let's go ahead and go through a couple of examples. I'm going to go through one. The other two will be yours. Okay, so right now all I'm talking about is an x equals graph. I give you my x-intercept, which is -6. It's right there. I know it's a vertical line because I have x equals. So it's going to be a vertical line through that point, like so. Okay. Just draw my arrows. Draw my arrows. Okay, good. Now, what you're going to do right here is it is undefined because it's a vertical line for my slope, and my y, I don't have a y-intercept, but my x-intercept. So you would just say x-intercept here is what? It is -6. Okay? Awesome. I want you to go ahead and try, let's do try 5. 6 is going to be a money problem. Okay? Now what I want you to do is after the money problem, stop, call me over, and I'll go over the next 2 examples with you. Alright? Good luck. See you next time.